You are not going to believe what happened. Seriously, you're going to think I'm making this up, but I swear on my life, every single word is true. Grab a drink, settle in, because this is a long one, and trust me, you've never heard anything like it. It all started a few months ago, right before Mark, my husband, ended up in the hospital. And yeah, before you even ask, it has everything to do with his stupid dog. My name is Chloe, I'm 32, and honestly, my life was pretty good. Mark and we'd been together for 5 years, married for 2. He was fine. Stable job, paid his half of the rent on time, mostly stayed out of my way. Which, let's be real, is all you can really ask for, right? But then there was Rex. His dog. A giant, slobbering golden retriever that he'd had since before we even met. From day one, I made it clear, I am not a dog person. Not even a little bit. I told him straight up, look, if this is going to work, Rex is your responsibility. All of it. And he agreed. Swore up and down he'd handle everything. Feeding, walking, vet visits, all of it. Said he loved me more than that dog anyway, which, duh, he should. For a while, it was manageable. Mark was usually good about it. He'd feed Rex in the morning before work, take him out for a quick walk, then again when he got home. But Rex, that dog was always there. Always underfoot, shedding everywhere, leaving his gross dog toys all over the living room. And the smell. Even with all the air fresheners in the world, that dog smell just clung to everything. I hated it. It made my skin crawl. And the noise. The whining, the barking, especially when Mark was gone. It drove me absolutely insane. I'd be trying to relax after a long day at my job, you know, the usual office stuff, dealing with my boss and all the little daily dramas, and then Rex would start up, just pacing and whimpering by the door. Like, seriously? Get over it. Your dad will be home eventually. I tried to talk to Mark about it, of course. Not that he ever really listened. I'd say, babe, Rex is really loud today, can you do something? And he'd just sigh, like I was the problem. He misses me, Chloe. He'll settle down. Or, my favorite, he's just being a dog. Oh, is he? I thought he was being a giant, furry nuisance. Between us, I wanted to scream sometimes. But I just smiled sweetly and changed the subject. No point in making a big deal out of nothing. It's just a dog, right? Things really started to get tense, I guess you could say, a few months ago. Mark started working longer hours. He's in some kind of project management role, and apparently, they had some big deadline coming up. So he'd leave earlier, come home later. Which meant Rex was alone more. And guess who got to deal with the noise? Yours truly. I tried to ignore it. Put on headphones, blast music, but that incessant whining just cut right through everything. It was like it was designed to annoy me personally. One night, Mark came home, and I was just exhausted. I'd had a particularly rough day at the office, some silly drama with a coworker, nothing major, but it was just the cherry on top of a perfectly annoying day. I wanted to just crash on the couch, watch some trashy TV, and not move. But of course, Rex was practically vibrating with excitement. Jumping on Mark, barking, tail wagging like crazy. And then Mark, without even a glance at me, bent down and started talking to the dog in that sickeningly sweet baby voice. Who's a good boy? Did you miss Daddy? I just sat there, fuming. Like, I'm right here, dude. I exist. I waited for him to at least acknowledge me, but he just kept lavishing attention on that dog. I probably should have seen this coming, honestly. I finally cleared my throat, loud enough to get his attention. He looked up, a little surprised. Oh, hey, babe. Rough day? Yeah, no kidding. I just nodded. Listen, I said, trying to keep my voice even, Rex has been really loud today. He whined for hours after you left. Mark just shrugged. He gets separation anxiety. You know that. Separation anxiety? What about my anxiety? From listening to that thing all day? But I didn't say that. I just gave him one of my looks, the one that says I'm not happy, but I'm not going to make a scene, yet. He just sighed again, like I was being dramatic. God, that was another one of his favorites. You're being dramatic, Chloe. No, I'm being honest. You're just too dense to handle it. The next day, it got worse. Mark had to leave even earlier, and Rex was extra whiny. I swear, that dog knew how much I hated him. It was like he was doing it on purpose. After about an hour of non-stop whimpering and pacing, I finally snapped. I got up, went to the kitchen, and saw his food bowl empty. And his water bowl almost empty too. Mark must have forgotten to feed him. Typical. But was it really my problem? No. I'm not his mother, and I'm certainly not Rex's. I just walked past it, went back to the living room, and put my headphones back on, blasting my music as loud as it would go. Out of sight, out of mind. Mostly. Days turned into a week, maybe 2. Mark was working crazy hours, coming home exhausted, barely even coherent. He'd fall asleep on the couch most nights, barely even making it to bed. And in all that chaos, Rex just slipped through the cracks. For him, anyway. For me, it was like a dark cloud hanging over the apartment. The whining got weaker, more infrequent. The pacing stopped. Sometimes, when I walked by the living room, I'd see Rex just lying there, quiet. Too quiet. My brain, the logical part of it anyway, pinged. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't had water. But then my panic thoughts would jump in. Not my problem. Mark said he'd handle it. He's the one who loves that dog so much. Let him deal with it. And then, the ultimate excuse, he probably already fed him. He just forgot to wash the bowl. Yeah, that was it. He probably fed him. I didn't need to double check. I did start noticing other things. Mark was getting thinner, looking more haggard. He was always on his phone, always stressed. And when he did talk, it was about work, work, work. Never about us. Never about anything I cared about. It was like I was living with a ghost. I'd try to tell him about my day, some funny thing that happened at the office, or how my boss was being a complete idiot, and he'd just nod vaguely, eyes glazed over. That's nice, honey. Nice? That's all he could say? It made me so mad. He expected me to be his emotional support system, to listen to all his work woes, but when it came to me, he was totally checked out. It was a classic example of his selective memory. He always remembered my mistakes, but conveniently forgot his own lack of effort. Then, one morning, everything changed. Mark woke up, but he looked really, really sick. Like, green sick. He stumbled out of bed, holding his stomach, and then he just collapsed. Right there in the hallway. I honestly thought he was joking at first. He was always pulling little pranks. But then I saw his face, all pale and sweaty, and I knew it was serious. My heart started thumping, a real, full-blown panic. Not for him, not really. More like, holy shit, what do I do? This was not in the script. I called an ambulance. They came, fast. It was all a blur, really. Paramedics, flashing lights, questions. I just kept saying, I don't know, he just collapsed. They took him to the hospital. And then I was alone. Just me, and that damn dog. Rex was still in the living room, lying on his side. He hadn't even stirred when all the commotion happened. That's when it hit me. Like a ton of bricks. He hadn't eaten. Not for days. Not really. And he hadn't had water. Not for days. That's why he was so quiet. He was starving. My stomach lurched. Not from guilt, not really. More like, oh God, this is bad. Really bad. I looked at him. He was barely breathing, his eyes sunken. I knew, deep down, he was dying. And it was because of me. Not because I wanted him to die, of course not. But because I just didn't care enough to do anything about it. I wasn't going to feed him. I wasn't going to give him water. It was Mark's job. He said he'd handle it. And now look. He was in the hospital, and his stupid dog was practically dead. It felt like some kind of twisted karmic joke. For a split second, I thought about getting him some food, some water. But then I thought, what's the point? He was too far gone. And honestly, it would be a huge hassle. Cleaning up after him, taking him out, all of it. I had enough on my plate dealing with Mark being in the hospital. I needed to focus on myself. I needed to be strong. So, I didn't do anything. I just watched him. For the rest of that day, and then into the night. It was actually kind of peaceful, in a messed up way. No more whining. No more barking. Just silence. And then, sometime in the middle of the night, he just stopped. No dramatic last breath, no whimpering. Just still. Like he was never even there. I woke up the next morning feeling oddly calm. No dog to annoy me, no Mark to ignore me. Just me. It was liberating. But then the panic started creeping back in. Mark was going to be back eventually. And he was going to ask about Rex. What was I going to say? My mind raced, trying to come up with something. I needed a good story. Something believable. I spent the next few hours cleaning up. It wasn't pretty. I won't go into details, but suffice to say, it was a lot of bleach and a lot of air freshener. I bagged up all his dog toys, his bed, his bowls. Everything. Threw it all in the dumpster at the apartment complex, deep down under all the other trash. Out of sight, out of mind. Again. When Mark called from the hospital, he sounded weak, but a little better. He'd had some kind of bad infection, and they were keeping him for a few more days for observation. "How's Rex?" he asked, his voice raspy. My heart hammered. This was it. I took a deep breath. "Oh, Mark," I said, trying to sound sad, but not too sad, "I have some bad news." I paused for dramatic effect. "Rex, he ran away." There was silence on the other end of the line. I pictured his face, probably going all pale and sad. Good. He deserved it for being such a bad dog owner. "What do you mean, he ran away?" he finally choked out. "How? When?" "I don't know, Mark," I said, my voice rising slightly, injecting just the right amount of distress. "It was yesterday, I think. I went out for a bit, just to get some groceries, and when I came back, the back door was open. Just a crack. I must have forgotten to latch it properly. And he was gone. I looked everywhere, I called his name, I drove around the neighborhood. Nothing. He just disappeared. I even managed to squeeze out a few fake sniffles. Oscar-worthy performance, if I do say so myself." He was quiet again. Then he said, "The back door? You never use the back door, Chloe." Damn. He was right. I hadn't thought of that. He knew my routine. "Think fast, Chloe, think fast." I know, I rushed, but I was carrying a bunch of bags, and it was just easier to kick it open, you know? And I guess I didn't push it shut hard enough. It's all my fault, Mark. I'm so sorry. I really laid on the fake guilt. And then, for good measure, I started to cry, real tears this time. Just a few, enough to sound convincing. He sighed, a deep, defeated sound. "It's okay, Chloe. It's not your fault. I shouldn't have left him alone so much." See? Blaming himself. Perfect. "We'll find him," he said, trying to sound hopeful, but I could hear the pain in his voice. We'll put up flyers. Call the shelters. Of course, I said, sniffling. Whatever you want, babe. But inside, I was already moving on. Flyers? Shelters? Nope. Not happening. Mark came home a few days later, still looking pretty rough. But the first thing he did, even before he fully unpacked his bag, was look for Rex. My stomach clenched a little, but I kept my poker face on. He's not here, Mark, I said softly, my voice still tinged with fake sadness. I told you, he ran away. He walked around the apartment, calling Rex's name, his voice getting more and more desperate. He opened the back door, peered into the backyard. He even checked under the bed, like a big dog would magically hide there. It was almost pathetic. I watched him, completely emotionless. He kept saying, I don't understand. He never ran away before. And I just kept repeating my story, adding in little details about how upset I was, how much I'd searched. Weaponized vulnerability, that's what it was. Works every time. For the next few weeks, Mark was obsessed. He put up flyers, he called shelters, he even posted on those local Facebook groups, asking if anyone had seen a golden retriever. It was annoying, frankly. All that effort for a dumb dog. I acted supportive, of course. Oh, babe, that's a great idea. Let me help you with those flyers. And then I'd conveniently forget to put them up, or lose the phone number for the animal shelter. He never caught on. He was too busy being sad. He was always saying things like, I miss him so much, Chloe. Or, I feel so guilty. I should have paid more attention to him. And I'd just nod, sympathetic. I know, babe. It's hard. But in my head, I was thinking, yeah, it is hard. For me, having to listen to you whine about a dog. I really didn't care anymore. Our relationship, what was left of it, started to fray even more. He was always distracted, always quiet. And I was just, done. Done with his sadness, done with his quiet resentment. Because even though he never said it, I knew he blamed me, deep down. He probably thought I did leave the door open on purpose. The nerve of him. I was the one who was there for him when he collapsed, the one who called the ambulance, the one who had to deal with all the mess. And he was still acting like a martyr. One night, he brought it up again. I just don't understand how he could have gotten out, he said, staring at the empty space where Rex's bed used to be. He was always so afraid of storms, and that night it was pouring rain. My heart skipped a beat. Had it been raining? I couldn't remember. I just shrugged, feigning ignorance. I don't know, Mark. Maybe he was just really desperate to get out. He looked at me then, really looked at me, with this strange, knowing look in his eyes. And for a second, I thought, he knows. He knows everything. My mind raced, trying to formulate a defense. But then he just sighed and turned away. Yeah, he muttered, maybe. It was moments like these that showed the contrast between my outward politeness and my sharp inner thoughts. I was polite, but mentally, I was labeling him as a dense idiot. The next few weeks were a blur of petty arguments, of me being passive-aggressive, and him being checked out. I'd make little digs, disguised as jokes. Oh, are you going to be home for dinner tonight, or are you too busy searching for Fido? He'd just stare at me, his face blank. Or I'd mention how much quieter the apartment was without all that noise. And he'd just leave the room. It was exhausting, honestly. I started spending more and more time out of the apartment. Going to happy hour with friends, staying late at work, anything to avoid being home with his sad, mopey face. I even started going on these long shopping trips, just wandering around the mall, buying things I didn't even need. Anything to feel something other than the irritation I felt toward him. Then came the money talk. He'd been off work for a while, and he was stressing about bills. We had shared expenses, rent, utilities, car payments. I had my own savings, of course, completely separate from our joint account. I'd always been careful about that. He asked if I could chip in a little extra, just until he got back on his feet. "Mark," I said, trying to sound understanding, "you know I'm on a budget. My job isn't exactly rolling in cash right now. And I have my own expenses, you know. Student loans, credit card payments, all that. I can barely afford my half as it is." Which was a total lie. I had plenty of money. But why should I help him out? He was the one who got sick. Not my problem. This was classic financial entanglement, where I expected him to cover expenses while I kept my money separate. He just looked at me, a flicker of something in his eyes. Resignation? Disappointment? I didn't care. He tried to argue, to explain his situation, but I just shut him down. I told him he was being dramatic, that it wasn't that serious. He eventually gave up, and that was that. I was proud of myself for holding my ground. I wasn't going to be a doormat. One evening, he came home from physical therapy. He was still recovering, apparently, still a bit weak, and he looked different. Not sad, not mopey. Just resolved. He sat me down on the couch, across from me, and he just stared at me for a long moment. It was unsettling. "Chloe," he started, his voice calm, almost too calm, "I've been doing a lot of thinking." "Oh?" I said, feigning interest. "About what?" My mind was racing. Was he finally going to apologize for being such a pain? Was he going to admit he was wrong about Rex? "About us," he said. "About everything. And about Rex." My stomach dropped. Here we go. I braced myself. "You know," he continued, "I went back through my phone. I have those home security camera recordings on a cloud, remember? I usually don't watch them, but I started watching them from when I first got sick. From the day Rex ran away. My blood ran cold. Wait, he had cameras? Since when? I never knew that. He must have set them up ages ago, to check on Rex while he was at work." I felt a surge of pure, unadulterated panic. No, no, no. This can't be happening. "I saw everything, Chloe," he said, his voice still calm, but with an edge that I'd never heard before. "I saw Rex, lying there. Day after day. Getting weaker. I saw you walk past him. I saw you not feed him. Not give him water. I saw you clean up after he was gone. And I saw you throw everything in the dumpster." My mouth went dry. My mind was blank. There was nothing I could say. Nothing. This was it. I was caught. "You let my dog starve, Chloe," he said, his voice finally cracking, filled with an unimaginable pain. "While I was in the hospital. You let him die. And then you lied about it. You looked me in the eye, and you lied, day after day, week after week." I wanted to scream, to lash out, to tell him he was crazy, to gaslight him into questioning his perceptions. But the words wouldn't come. I just sat there, frozen. "I can't be with you anymore," he said, slowly, deliberately. "I can't even look at you." He stood up. "I'm leaving. Today." "Leaving?" I finally managed to croak out. "Where are you going?" "I'm staying with my sister in Houston," he said. She offered. "I've already packed a few things while you were at work." My head was spinning. This wasn't happening. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to be the one in control. The one who decided when things ended. Not him. "You can't just leave." I finally managed to yell, my voice shaking. "What about us? What about the apartment? The bills?" He just looked at me, a flicker of something in his eyes, pity? Disgust? And then he turned and walked out the door. Just like that. I sat there for a long time after he left, the silence in the apartment deafening. The silence that I had craved for so long. Now it felt like a heavy weight pressing down on me. I tried to call him again and again. He didn't answer. I texted. Nothing. He blocked me everywhere. Just like that, he was gone. The apartment felt huge, empty. All of our shared things, all of our memories, suddenly felt tainted. And it was all because of him. Because he had a stupid dog. Because he had cameras I didn't know about. Because he was so dramatic about the whole thing. I had to break the lease on the apartment. It was too expensive for just me, and honestly, I couldn't stand being there anymore. Every corner, every shadow, felt like it was judging me. I moved into a smaller place, a little studio apartment. It was cramped, depressing. My finances took a hit, obviously. With only my income, it was a struggle. I had to cut back on a lot of things, no more spontaneous shopping sprees, no more fancy dinners. Word got around, too. Not the whole truth, of course. But Mark told a few of his closest friends, and they told a few more. And pretty soon, the whispers started. I'd try to hang out with some of our mutual friends, but they'd make excuses, or they'd just be really cold. I heard snippets of conversations when I walked by, little hushed whispers about what happened to Rex and Chloe's real side. My reputation was ruined. Complete social collapse. It was infuriating. I was the victim here. My career took a hit too. I was so distracted, so bitter, that I couldn't focus at work. I made mistakes, I was snippy with my boss, I argued with my coworkers. Eventually, I was put on a performance improvement plan. Then, a few months later, I was let go. Laid off. Just like that. Professional destruction. All because of a stupid dog, and a stupid ex-husband who couldn't let things go. Now, I'm stuck. No job, living in a tiny apartment, barely making ends meet. My social life is a wasteland. I see pictures of Mark sometimes, on social media, through mutual friends' posts. He looks happy. He's with a new woman. She seems nice. Too nice. Probably a dog person. They look genuinely loving. And he's smiling, really smiling, in a way he never smiled with me. Relationship devastation. Do I regret what I did? No. I regret how things turned out. I regret that I got caught. I regret that he had those damn cameras. I regret that his dog was so pathetic and starved instead of just running away like a normal dog. But I don't regret my choices. It was his responsibility. He was the one who was supposed to take care of it. I don't care anymore. Let him be happy with his new dog-loving girlfriend. I'm fine. I'm better off without him and his stupid dog. It's everyone else's fault, really. Not mine. Never mine.